Everyone's talking about bringing back extinct animals. Woolly mammoths might walk the Earth again by 2028, thanks to colossal biosciences and their gene editing technology. But while we're busy dreaming about fluffy elephants, we're overlooking something far more terrifying that once stalked our planet. Something that would make even the bravest modern humans run for cover. They stood up to 10 feet tall. They couldn't fly, but they didn't need to. Their beaks weren't designed for seeds or worms. They were hooked weapons built for one purpose: tearing flesh. Their name? Terror birds. And trust me, they earned that title. These weren't just oversized chickens. Terror birds, officially called Phorusrhacids, were the apex predators of South America for over 60 million years. While mammals were still figuring themselves out after the dinosaurs disappeared, these birds were already perfecting the art of killing. They had massive skulls, some nearly 2 feet long, with beaks that curved like medieval weapons. Their legs weren't spindly like a flamingo's. They were thick, powerful, and could propel them at speeds up to 30 miles per hour. But what made terror birds truly nightmarish wasn't just their size or speed. It was their hunting technique. Fossil evidence suggests they would chase down prey, grab it with their powerful beaks, and then, this is where it gets disturbing, they'd slam their catch repeatedly against the ground. Then they'd use their hooked beaks to tear the prey apart. Some species likely use their massive heads like axes, delivering powerful skull-crushing blows. Yet despite being one of history's most effective killing machines, terror birds are barely mentioned in resurrection conversations. No lab is working to bring them back. No company is raising millions in funding to see them stride across modern landscapes. And maybe that's for the best. Because unlike woolly mammoths, which symbolize a kind of gentle prehistoric majesty, terror birds represent something darker, a predator perfectly evolved to hunt mammals. Mammals like us. The largest terror bird species, Titanis, disappeared only about 2.5 million years ago, a blink in evolutionary time. Some scientists believe they may have encountered early human ancestors. Imagine that meeting. A creature taller than a grizzly bear, faster than an Olympic sprinter, with a beak that could crush bone. We didn't stand a chance. But what if we brought them back today? What would happen if terror birds suddenly returned to our world? Unlike mammoths, which evolved to eat plants in open tundras, terror birds evolved specifically to hunt and kill. Their entire body plan, from their massive legs to their axe-like heads, was designed for one purpose: to be the perfect predator. And that's what makes the idea of their resurrection so disturbing. Terror birds didn't just hunt, they dominated. Fossil records show evidence of their incredible success. Bones of various mammals have been found with distinctive damage patterns that match terror bird attacks. Skull fractures, crushed rib cages, limbs snapped by incredible force. These weren't gentle deaths. They were violent, efficient kills by a predator that had perfected its technique over millions of years. Scientists believe terror birds were also highly intelligent. Like modern birds of prey and corvids, they likely had problem-solving abilities and possibly even basic tool use. They weren't mindless killing machines. They were calculating hunters with the brain power to outthink their prey. That combination of physical power and intelligence made them nearly unstoppable in their time. So what happened to them? Why did they vanish? The most accepted theory points to the Great American Interchange. About 3 million years ago, North and South America connected at Panama, creating a land bridge. Suddenly, terror birds faced something they hadn't evolved alongside: large North American predators like big cats and bears. For the first time, they had real competition. At the same time, climate change was altering their habitats. Grasslands expanded, forests shrank, and the terror birds' hunting grounds changed. They couldn't adapt fast enough. Within a million years, most species had disappeared. The last holdouts vanished around 1.8 million years ago, leaving only bones and nightmares behind. But here's the thing. We could bring them back if we wanted to. Modern birds, especially large flightless species like cassowaries and emus, share enough genetic material that scientists could theoretically reconstruct terror bird DNA. We have the technology, or soon will. The question isn't can we, but should we? Right now, de-extinction efforts focus on creatures like mammoths, passenger pigeons, and thylacines, species that either pose no threat to humans or could potentially help ecosystems. Terror birds don't fit either category. They're not ecological engineers like mammoths. They're predators, and potentially very dangerous ones. If we brought terror birds back today, where would they live? Their natural habitats have changed dramatically. The grasslands and forests they once dominated are now cities, farms, and highways. They evolved to chase down horse ancestors and early camels. Would they see joggers, cyclists, or children as similar prey? Modern ecosystems aren't prepared for terror birds either. No current predator combines their size, speed, and hunting technique. They would have no natural enemies, no population controls. What happens when you introduce an apex predator with no evolutionary history with modern animals? Ecological disaster. And then there's the human factor. We already struggle with much smaller predators. Mountain lions occasionally attack hikers. Wolves and coyotes threaten livestock. Now imagine a 10-foot-tall bird that can outrun a human with a beak designed to crush skulls. The first terror bird attack would be international news. The second would spark panic. The third would lead to calls for their elimination. We'd be bringing them back just to drive them extinct again. Is that ethical? Is that conservation? Or is it just playing God for the spectacle? Some scientists argue we have a moral obligation to resurrect species humans drove extinct. But terror birds disappeared long before we evolved. Their extinction was natural, part of the constant reshuffling of Earth's biological deck. Bringing them back wouldn't be restoring balance. It would be creating something entirely new and potentially catastrophic. The fossils tell us everything we need to know. Terror bird hunting grounds show scattered bones, crushed skulls, evidence of ambush tactics. They were patient, methodical killers. They didn't just chase, they strategized. Modern birds, like secretary birds, which kill snakes by stomping them with incredible precision, give us hints at how terror birds might have behaved, but scaled up to nightmarish proportions. One particularly chilling fossil site in Argentina revealed what appears to be a terror bird hunting ground. Multiple mammal species, all with similar fatal injuries, gathered in one area. Scientists believe the terror birds may have driven their prey into natural traps, creating killing zones where they could efficiently dispatch multiple animals. That's not just hunting, that's planning. So while labs work to bring back woolly mammoths, the terror birds remain in the past. Not because they're impossible to resurrect, but because they're too dangerous. Some extinct animals deserve to stay extinct. Some predators are too perfect, too lethal to coexist with humans. But there's something else about terror birds that makes scientists nervous. Something beyond their physical abilities. It's their adaptability. Terror birds survived for over 60 million years, longer than most dinosaur species, longer than saber-toothed cats, longer than almost any large predator in Earth's history. They survived multiple climate shifts, competition from mammals, changing habitats. They were survivors. What if we brought them back and they adapted again? What if they learned to hunt in suburban environments, to hide in the fragments of forests between our cities, to target domestic animals or even humans? What if they became the ultimate invasive species? Modern birds can learn, remember, and solve complex problems. Crows recognize human faces and hold grudges for years. Ravens can use tools and understand cause and effect. Now scale that intelligence up to a predator the size of a grizzly bear. Terror birds wouldn't just hunt by instinct, they'd learn. They'd adapt. They'd watch. The few scientists who have seriously studied terror bird resurrection scenarios don't paint a pretty picture. Computer models suggest they would spread rapidly, establish territories near human settlements, and quickly learn that humans and livestock make easy prey. Unlike large cats or wolves, which have evolved alongside humans and generally avoid us, terror birds would have no evolutionary history with humans. We wouldn't register as dangerous, just as food. And controlling them would be nearly impossible. They could outrun most vehicles in rough terrain. Their size and strength would make them resistant to most conventional weapons. Their intelligence would help them avoid traps. We'd be facing a predator that combines the worst aspects of big cats, wolves, and crocodiles with the problem-solving abilities of corvids. So maybe the real question isn't, could we bring back terror birds? But, are we prepared for what happens if we did? Are we ready to face a predator that once dominated Earth? Are we willing to risk human lives for the sake of scientific curiosity? Because unlike mammoths, which might help restore ecosystems, terror birds would just restore fear. They would remind us that humans aren't always at the top of the food chain. They would show us what it means to be prey. Perhaps that's why terror birds remain in the shadows of de-extinction conversations. Not because they're forgotten, but because they're feared. Not because they're impossible, but because they're too possible. Not because we can't bring them back, but because deep down, we know we shouldn't. So while companies raise millions to resurrect mammoths, the terror birds stay buried. Their bones remain in museums, their legacy in nightmares. And maybe that's where they belong. As a reminder that nature once created the perfect predator, and that some extinct animals are better left in the past. Because if terror birds ever returned, they wouldn't just be a scientific miracle. They'd be a warning. A reminder that humans aren't the most dangerous predators to ever walk the earth. And maybe we're better off not learning that lesson firsthand.